The school hallway was alive with chatter, the echo of footsteps bouncing off the walls as students rushed to their classrooms. Lockers slammed, laughter rang out, and teachers hurried children along. Emily's eyes scanned the crowd until she spotted her little boy, Oliver, standing near the entrance, fiddling with the bright red scarf she had carefully wrapped around his neck that morning. The scarf slipped from his small hands and fluttered to the floor, landing near the janitor's bucket. Mr. Harris, the school janitor, paused his sweeping. His back was slightly bent with age, his face lined with years of quiet work and hidden pain. He leaned down slowly, his hand trembling just a little as he picked up the scarf, brushing away the dust with a tenderness that seemed out of place for such a small thing. Before he could hand it over, Emily's protective instincts flared. She hurried forward, her voice sharper than she meant. "Don't touch my son's things." The words echoed down the corridor, drawing the attention of other parents and children. Some stopped to stare, whispering, while Oliver looked up at her in confusion, clutching her hand tighter. Mr. Harris froze. He didn't argue, didn't defend himself. He simply held out the scarf in silence. His weathered eyes filled with something she couldn't quite name, something heavy, something sad. For a moment, Emily felt an unfamiliar unease ripple through her. But pride and irritation pressed her lips shut. She snatched the scarf from his hand and turned away, her heart beating faster than it should over something so small. The next day, the morning sun filtered through the tall windows of the school hallway, casting long golden beams across the polished floor. Emily walked in with Oliver, her hand firmly holding his. Determined to avoid yesterday's awkwardness, she kept her eyes fixed straight ahead, pretending not to notice the janitor mopping quietly near the lockers. Her cheeks still burned when she remembered how harshly she had spoken, yet pride kept her from saying anything. Oliver, full of childish energy, wriggled free from her grip as soon as he spotted a friend across the hall. In his rush, the red scarf once again slipped from his shoulders and tumbled to the ground. Emily's breath caught, just like before. And just like before, Mr. Harris noticed it first. He paused his work, leaned over with the same deliberate care and picked it up, brushing it gently with his calloused fingers. Emily opened her mouth, ready to snap again, but something stopped her. This time she noticed the way his hands shook, how his shoulders hunched as if under a great invisible weight. His lips parted slightly, and for a second, it looked as though he wanted to say something but couldn't. His eyes glistened, catching the morning light, and Emily felt a strange tightness in her chest. "Why do you keep—" she began, her voice softer now, no longer filled with the same sharpness as yesterday. The janitor's gaze lifted to hers, and she saw it clearly, an ocean of grief in his tired eyes. He stood there holding out the scarf, but it wasn't just fabric in his hands anymore. It was something more, something that connected him to a past she couldn't yet understand. Mr. Harris's fingers lingered on the scarf as if it were something fragile, something sacred. His lips trembled, and for a moment Emily thought he might remain silent again. Then in a voice so soft she almost missed it, he whispered, "He reminds me of my boy." The hallway noise seemed to fade, the chatter of children and the clatter of shoes dulling into nothing. Emily froze, her heart tightening as she watched the old man's eyes shine with unshed tears. He swallowed hard, his voice cracking with each word. "My son used to wear a scarf just like this, red, every winter morning. He wouldn't step outside without it. I'd walk him to school and he'd laugh, pulling at it the same way your Oliver does." His chest rose and fell heavily, and he closed his eyes for a second, as though he were fighting to keep the memories from overwhelming him. That scarf. It was the last thing I ever saw him wear before. He stopped, his voice breaking, unable to finish the sentence. Emily's breath caught. The sharpness she'd carried toward him crumbled in an instant. She looked down at Oliver, who was staring at Mr. Harris with wide, innocent eyes, not fully understanding but sensing the weight in the air. Emily's throat burned with shame, and she realized how blind she had been. Too quick to judge, too quick to lash out at a man who carried more grief than she could imagine. The janitor finally handed over the scarf, his hand trembling as though letting go of something precious. "I'm sorry," he muttered, not for picking up the scarf, but for allowing his pain to spill into the moment. Emily shook her head slightly, unable to speak. her chest aching as she clutched the scarf to her heart. For the first time, she didn't just see the janitor, she saw a father who had loved and lost, and who still carried his son's memory in every careful gesture. The following morning, the school felt different to Emily. The same bustling hallway, the same clamor of lockers and chatter, yet her heart carried a softness it hadn't known just days ago. She spotted Mr. Harris at the far end of the corridor, pushing his mop slowly across the tiles. His movements were steady but weary, the kind of tiredness that came not from work alone, but from years of carrying invisible burdens. Emily drew in a deep breath, her fingers tightening around Oliver's small hand. Instead of turning away as she might have before, she walked straight toward him. The closer she came, the heavier her chest felt, but also lighter, as though something inside her needed to be set right. She reached out gently, placing her hand on his shoulder. The janitor startled slightly, then looked up at her, his eyes questioning. "I'm sorry," she said softly, her voice thick with emotion. "I didn't know. I judged you without understanding. And I was wrong." Her words seemed to hang in the air, fragile but sincere. Mr. Harris blinked, his mouth opening as if to reply, but no words came at first. Only a faint, grateful smile curved at the corners of his lips, his eyes glassy. At that moment, Oliver tugged free from her grasp. With all the innocence of a child, he held out his red scarf, his little voice bright and trusting. "You can hold it, mister. Mommy says it's okay." He beamed up at the janitor, who slowly crouched down, his knees stiff, his hands trembling as they reached for the fabric. When his fingers brushed the scarf, his breath caught. He didn't just touch wool. He touched memory, love, and loss all at once. "Thank you," he whispered, his voice breaking, yet warm. His eyes closed for a second as he let the moment wash over him, then carefully handed the scarf back to Oliver. The boy giggled, wrapping it around his neck, unaware of how deeply his simple kindness had touched the man. Emily watched in silence, tears stinging her eyes. For the first time, she saw the hallway differently. Not as a place of hurried mornings and sharp glances, but as a place where hearts could soften, where forgiveness could heal, where strangers could carry pieces of each other's stories. And as she walked away with Oliver, she glanced back at Mr. Harris and offered a small nod. He returned it, a silent promise that grief shared, even quietly, loses a little of its weight.